Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wildes. It has been a long and busy and complicated and somewhat stressful week, but it is still Friday. And as Brandon said, we look good today, which is the other positive to come out of it. We still have some
best dress goes to Jenna.
Well, thank you very much. You know, forget what I was saying. If you want to talk about how well dressed I am, I'm happy to table everything I was saying.
So we're in the middle of winter in New York. Sorry, Jenna. I apologize. Why is Wildes so tan?
No. There's a great Seinfeld line to why Wildes is tan. I refuse to use it. Hey, we start this morning in the Bay Area. A very depleted Niners team hosting a very hungry and out-to-prove-something Packers team. Seems like a fair matchup. And to the surprise of nobody, Aaron Rodgers feasted on the opportunity. 305 passing yards, 4 touchdowns for him. And how about this? 10 catches, 173 yards for Davante Adams. Packers win. Packers improve to 6-2. So, Brandon, was Rodgers and Adams' big night against a very depleted Niners team? Was that something or was it nothing?
Depleted, decimated. Jimmy Garoppolo out of there. You got the tight end. Kittle out of there. Raheem Mostert out of there. 3 wide receivers out of there. Trent Williams out of there. Go to the defensive side. Nick Bosa, D4 out of there. Richard Sherman out of there. And so many more guys. So, yes, it was nothing, Jenna. I mean, did they play well? They played phenomenal. Great job getting back on track. But at the end of the day, it's nothing. They had $80 million of cap on the sideline. So this is nothing, but it does mean something in that locker room, just getting a win, just going out there, touching the ball, making a few tackles. But, Nick, I don't know how you see it, but if I'm the Green Bay Packers, you know, I'm looking at it like, maybe in 2 weeks when we play somebody, it could be something.
So I mostly agree with you. Here's why I think it is kind of something. Because while there was not much to gain for the Packers yesterday, there was an immense amount to lose. If they lost that game, given the Niners' injury situation, it's an unmitigated disaster. And I would argue, if they do anything other than what they did, which is roll up a 34-3 lead and then coast the rest of the way, if that's even a 10-point margin in the fourth quarter, I think people are like, ooh, what's wrong with the Packers? So while they had nothing to gain, they had a lot to lose, and it is something that they didn't lose it. But the other thing that I think is something is what Davante Adams did last night and what he's done this year. The dude's played 5.5 games. He's missed 2 and he got hurt during one of them. But I think he leads all receivers in fantasy points. Now, I don't really care about fantasy, but it speaks to his wild production. Wildes, there have been 15 games in the NFL all year where a wide receiver went for at least 150 yards. Davante Adams has 3 of them by himself. And I know he's Aaron Rodgers' favorite target, and I know Davante Adams, or Aaron Rodgers gets most of the credit. But Davante Adams, I feel like, is kind of flying under the radar a bit as a guy who maybe should be in the discussion as one of the 3 best receivers in football. He's certainly one of the most productive receivers in football, Wildes.
So he should be. After the game, he says it's fair to say I'm the best wide receiver. And it wasn't like a wildly conceited statement. That's just the facts, and the numbers bear it out. So not only did he have a ton of yards and he leads the league with 8 touchdowns, he also had this 4th and inches play, which just is like an amazing call. Like, 4th and inches, what are we going to do? Like, let's throw the ball to Davante Adams. So, Brandon, I know you said that this game was a lot of nothing because the Niners had everybody out. But to me, I don't think that takes away anything that Davante Adams did. Like, he keeps on piling up these yards per game. Here they are, top 4. And this really works perfectly. Very rarely do stats line up so perfectly with the way the world actually is. Here it is. Davante Adams, number 1. DeAndre, number 2. Julio Jones, number 3. And your buddy DK Metcalf, number 4. Those are the top 4. There's no outliers, nothing weird going on. Just the top 4 wide receivers also lead the league in yards. So do you think, because they played the depleted 49ers, that somehow takes away from his stats?
No, not at all. I mean, that's his job.
Okay, good.
His job is to go out there and produce. Davante Adams, this is no shock to people, to any of us. Davante Adams for the last couple years has been one of the most premier wide receivers in the league. So yes, this is it's not a huge argument. He can easily go down as the best wide receiver in football right now. I like DK Metcalf. I like DeAndre Hopkins. There's some other guys that we need to throw out there. Even Stephon Diggs is playing lights out. There's only a handful of real #1 wide receivers. We'll get into that possibly next week. But right now, Wilds, you are dead on. This guy's playing phenomenal.
And I just want to add one other quick thing, Jenna. I think, it is a post-weekend tease. Aaron Rodgers this season, and I know you can't take out a game, but aside from the Tampa Bay Bucs game, Jenna, Aaron Rodgers this year has a passer rating of 127 with 24 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Again, we're halfway through the year. Take out one game. He has 24 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a passer rating of nearly 130. It is remarkable production, Jenna.
Except for that one game, that one team they played was a very good one in the Bucs. All right, let's talk about the Niners side of things. Nick Mullins got the start last night for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he looked okay. 291 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 turnovers in the loss. Brandon, I'll send it back to you. Did Nick Mullins' performance last night help or hurt Jimmy G's stock?
I mean, Nick Mullins' performance had nothing to do with how they're thinking about Jimmy G. It comes down to the value. You got to look at it. He's making $25 million next year and a year after that. Is he going to give you that type of production? And I would say no. And I will also say that teams are thinking about his injury history. He's injury prone. And whilst I know you love him, he's an expatriate. But at the end of the day, this dude is getting paid $25 million to do what? He's also on the bench half the time since he's been in the league. So I would say Nick Mullins' performance, he could have went out there and threw for 0 yards. He could have threw for 400 yards and it would put nothing in the 49ers' mind as far as how they need to move forward with Jimmy G next year.
Okay. There's a famous Hollywood story about Shelley Winters. Stay with me here. It'll make sense. And she won 2 Academy Awards. And this director wanted to bring her in and say, oh, we want her to audition. She said, okay. She went to the office and she went like this. Bingo, 1 Academy Award. Don't know if you can see it. It's a bottle of water. And then takes out her bag. Bingo, the other Academy Award. That's my audition. Here's Jimmy G's example of that. Since 2017, they are 22-8 when Jimmy G starts. And they are 5-22 when he doesn't start. So what is Jimmy G getting $25 million to do? Win games. And that's what he does. Now you can say like, the guy's got an ankle sprain. Let's just start fresh. Let's start with the kid from BYU. Why don't we put 14-year-old Arch Manning in there and see what he can do? The time is now. Jim, you got yourself a great quarterback who wins games. Unless you're playing fantasy and you're mad because he only threw a handful of passes to get you to the Super Bowl. He got
when he plays, that's the problem,
Wilds, I love it, Wilds. Go ahead, Brandon.
So real quick, Brandon, you're saying the problem is availability. I'll take it a step further. I think the problem is he's not good. He being Jimmy Garoppolo. I agree with you, Brandon, in this. I don't think Nick Mullins' performance had a huge impact on Jimmy Garoppolo because I think they're evaluating him on his own outside of how Mullins looked. Now, if Mullins had played great and looked awesome, I do think it would have damaged Jimmy because it would have spoke to how maybe set up any quarterback is to succeed in that offense. But I am going to tell you whose stock was improved by Nick Mullins' performance yesterday, which I actually thought was way worse than the numbers. He tried to throw multiple other picks. He looked lost. Like, I think that if you didn't watch the game, the numbers kind of belie how bad he was. You know whose stock was helped by it? Your old buddy Kevin Wildes. Because Kevin Wildes, a couple days ago when Brandon and I were like, Mullins is fine. It's like, no, he's not. Jimmy G, quarterback wins with a Z, and he was slamming Oscars on the table. So I was watching yesterday, and I was like, you know what? The Niners look terrible. Nick Mullins looks scared.
Right.
And Kevin Wilde's probably got his feet up in his palatial estate in Groton, Connecticut. That's where you were born. That's not where you live now. Sorry. In Rye, New York, saying, I told these idiots they need Jimmy Garoppolo. So while I don't agree with the take has aged better than my Nick Mullins take. So doff my cap to you, sir.
Nice take. Wow.
Listen,
Jenna.
Jenna, you can't make the club in the tub. Can't make the club in the tub.
Oh. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds like something I'm going to start saying. Take a turn, get you ready for the matchup of the weekend. Saints and Bucs, Brady and Bree. Saints are underdogs, but Brandon's going to tell you how they can pull this out. That's next. First things first. Clubs in a tub.
I like the scoreboard.
No.
Time for his keys to the game. We're going to call it Brandon's keys to the game. It just flows better. Brandon, what are your keys to the Saints upsetting the Bucs?
Here we go. Let's jump right in. Number one, you got to protect old man. Drew Brees, you can't allow him to be hit more than twice this game. Look, Wednesday he did not practice, but that's no news because he hasn't thrown the ball on a Wednesday practice for the last several years. So that's no news. When I used to get in a huddle, Drew Brees would be in there. He would say, okay, we're going to go I right Z zig and we're going to go X dagger. And then all of a sudden he drops back and he wouldn't throw the ball. Teddy B would be throwing the ball. Like, wow, what's going on here? Well, Drew doesn't throw on Wednesday. But what it is a big deal is on Thursday, Drew Brees he's not participating, limited. So could this be something? They need to protect this guy if he's going to take the field. He has been limited in practice all week long. Number two, Michael Thomas is finally back. He hasn't played since week 1. Throw this man the ball. Feed him. He's ready to go. He has way more energy than he needs. 15 targets. And if you do that, you could potentially find yourself upsetting the Tampa Bay Bucs. Number 3. Oh, these guys don't like each other, Nick. It's like me and you talking about quarterbacks. Something happens every single Sunday when they take the field against each other. Lattimore needs to limit Mike Evans to 50 yards. Week 1, 1 reception, 2 yards. Mike Evans, let's go, baby.
All right, so
those
I
are the keys, Jenna. What do you think?
Brandon, listen, I think those are great, especially because I think the Saints are going to win. So I think they're going to be able to check all of those off. But the one that I'm most interested in is the second one. Because of my, did you get something in your eye there, Brandon? Jeez, my God, my take came through the screen and
Saints
hit him right in the face.
are going to win. I mean, you just said that. You just said that so confident.
You just gave me the keys. You laid it all out how it's going to happen. But in order for them to win, Michael Thomas does have to be a huge part of this. And I want to ask you as a receiver, how much rust should we expect? Because obviously you've got the offseason when there's no preseason, a different type of training camp. He plays week 1. He has 3 catches for 17 yards week 1 and then gets hurt at a meaningless play at the very end of the game when he shouldn't have been in there. And now hasn't played for 2 months. So Michael Thomas hasn't had a really big game since January. It's November. Like, do you think if he is healthy, he's going to be able to just pick up right where he left off last season? Or should we expect some real rust here?
Well, there may be a little rust. Now, I'm more concerned about AB just jumping in and just, you know, contributing right away. But Michael Thomas has been on the field off and on for the last couple weeks. He's been in those meetings. He's been in the lab getting catches. He's been doing what he needs to do to get back into midseason form. So I'm not concerned about Mike Evans. Mike Evans and Drew Brees, their chemistry is phenomenal.
Mike Thomas.
When Mike Evans is on the field, Mike Thomas, excuse me. Mike Thomas, when I was there, I mean, every time those two are in a huddle together, the ball is going to him. Like, those guys, their chemistry, that continuity is unbelievable. Some of the best I've ever seen between the duo. So I'm not concerned about them. What I'm concerned about is how healthy is he? He's been having this lingering ankle issue and also a hamstring. But let's see where he's at when he takes the field, Wilds.
So Brandon, about this ankle, because I remember we talked off air about this, that I think for people like me, don't get me wrong, world-class athletes, but never played in the league. When I get I've never had a high ankle sprain, and I'm like, and I don't think my ceiling's that high anyway. So I'm like, it's healed now, I can run. But you said like the high ankle sprain is a longer recovery. Like, you can play, but you're not necessarily at your best. Can you get into that of how good you think Michael Thomas would be?
Yeah, I go back to, 2014, 2015, playing for the Chicago Bears. First game of the season, messed up my ankle, high ankle. The doctor said 4 to 6 weeks. Can't tell you what I did to get back, but it was, just know that I took a lot of pain pills before the game. Following the next week, we played against the San Francisco 49ers. 3 touchdowns, 3 catches, 3 yards. Couldn't do anything, couldn't move, but the stat line looked good as far as touchdowns. It took me 6 weeks to fully recover. So this guy had more than enough time, Jenna, to get back to where he needs to be. He should be fine. Now, does he have, his pop in his legs? Is his conditioning there? That's to be determined. We will see.
Well, sophomore year in high school, I got a high ankle sprain. I was playing volleyball. Oh, I thought it was story time. Okay, sorry. I'll do mine later. Time for Take Your Pick. Breeze and Brady have been passing the baton back and forth all season as the NFL's all-time leading touchdown passer. Tom coming into this one with 561. Breeze just behind him at 560. Who finishes the game with the touchdown record, Breeze or Brady? Brandon, back to you. Take your pick.
Oh, I'm definitely going with Tom Brady. He's the better quarterback at this point. Drew Brees is playing lights out. Since week 3, Drew Brees has been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. His completion percentages, he's just balling right now. But I'm going with Tampa Tom.
Yeah, I'm going with Brady too, Nick. The ball still isn't flying through the air for Brees. This isn't the Brees of old. And when we look at the stats, Brady kind of does look like the Brady of old.
So I'm going to go with a tie because I think Brady finishes with 2 touchdown passes. Breeze finishes with 3. So that would put them both at 563 for their career. But I have a bonus Take Your Pick. America, if you're viewing, take this pick. If you ever hear Brandon Marshall say, I'm not going to tell you something, pick that he's immediately then going to tell you the thing he said he's not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what I did to get on the field. I took a bunch of pain pills to get on the field. Now let me keep going. So, America, take that pick. If Brandon says he's not going to tell you, he is, in fact, going to exactly tell you, Jenna.
Stay away from drugs, kids. No drugs, kids.
Yeah, don't do it. Maybe don't do what he said, but he's going to tell you what he did.
It is all true. I got a couple questions for you. Who do you like this weekend? Who should be on upset alert? Who's got the most to prove? I've got the questions. These guys have the answers. This is next. It's First Things First. A little easier. We'll play a little drawing a blank. Big weekend in the NFL. Russ in Buffalo. Lamar taking on the Colts. Big Ben and the Steelers trying to stay undefeated in Dallas. But Brandon, my friend, the player you are most excited to watch in Week 9 is blank.
Probably the most dynamic player in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey, hasn't played in 6 weeks.
Back.
The Panthers have till Saturday to activate him. This is going to be interesting. Nick, they're playing against your Chiefs. I know we got upset alert, and I may be going a different way, but we may have to move them up a tier if the Panthers beat your Chiefs.
Oh, deal. Absolutely. They'll get moved up a tier if they beat the Chiefs.
Deal?
Yeah, 100%. But they're not going to beat the Chiefs. Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Player I'm most excited to watch is the whole media's beloved September MVP, Josh Allen. Here's why I'm most excited to watch him. He's playing a Seattle defense that isn't just the worst pass defense in the NFL. It is on pace to be the worst pass defense in NFL history by a wide margin. They are on pace this year to give up 1,000 more yards than the worst pass defense ever. 1,000 more yards than the worst ever is what Seattle's on pace to give up. So I'm excited to watch Josh Allen. Wilds, if he can't get it done against this defense, then he's not going to be able to get it done against anybody. So Josh Allen's the guy I'm most excited
about. I'm rooting for you, Josh. I'm rooting for you, Josh.
You know who's got the second worst pass defense? The Falcons. They're giving up 311 yards. So I said Drew Lock, dancing Drew Lock. We say he's going to keep on dancing. Get used to it. I'm Drew Lock. Drew Lock, truth bomb for you. You're not that great of a dancer. Just be honest. You're a fine dancer. You're fine.
Yes.
You did have
It's a
that
great take.
Buzz Lightyear celebration. Remember that? You're like, do. That was your thing, dude. Everybody can dance. Your thing was Toy Story, Pixar celebrations. You could have gotten famous,
so
but then you
wrong.
went with dancing, something that you're not that great at.
I
would
moves.
suggest go back to the Pixar celebrations and become a fan favorite for kids, too. Free take from your buddy Kate.
It's a great take.
Great dancer.
Wild's best take of the day.
All right, let's move on. Russell Wilson playing his first career game in Buffalo against the 6-2 Bills. There it is. Seattle 3-point road favorites in this one. Kevin, let me go back to you. KW with your Drew Lock take. The team that should be on upset alert in week 9 is blank.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
How many beverages you got?
Here
Listen.
we go.
I got several beverages. Okay, life tip for everyone out there. If you have fear, anxiety, nightmares, here's what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't just put them in a box in your head and store them back there and say, I'm never going to think about that. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. You got to say it and de-weaponize it. The Patriots could easily lose to the Jets. I'm very nervous.
Wow.
We haven't scored a first quarter touch. I'm sorry. We easily could.
Oh,
we
listen.
easily could.
So
Go
true.
look at the stats. You know who has
Monday Night Football.
Go ahead, Brandon, take it. I said it out there. I'm out. It's out there. We could easily lose. I can't just harbor it and say like, I'm worried about the Titans. I got to just say it. We could easily lose. Go ahead, Brandon.
But buddy, I think you got to stop being so disrespectful to the Jets. You heard a player say it 2 weeks ago. Like, this team is really good. They just haven't gotten any wins. I agree with you. The Patriots are on upset alert. They are struggling, Nick, and it may be worse than we think. We have never seen a Bill Belichick team struggle this bad in all 3 phases. They're not disciplined. You're seeing effort problems. It's across the board. This is not a good team right now. So I'm taking the Jets Monday Night Football to get their first win. Okay. Great job, Wilds.
Why are you so amused, Nick?
No, not great job, Wilds. I was vulnerable.
I'm not. I don't mean to laugh at Brandon. I think Brandon is awesome. I think Brandon has reinvigorated and remade this show. But Brandon Marshall going on television and uttering these phrases, people are disrespecting the Jets and quoting Chris Jones, who said the Jets are a good team, they just hadn't won, when Chris Jones, being a smart aleck, is one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard anyone say in any platform. I don't know if he was being serious or not.
Jones
It doesn't matter.
serious?
I'll be serious for him. The Jets are maybe the worst coach team in the history of the NFL, and they don't have any talent. So the answer is not the Jets. Don't worry,
tell me
Wilds.
that.
Team that should be on upset alert.
Okay, thank you.
Is the old Tampa Bay Gronkaneers. Saints could go up, sweep them in the division, take first place in the division. Big game for them. Hey, Antonio Brown coming in. Everyone's, Tampa, Super Bowl favorites out of the NFC. Brady MVP, dark horse.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just see if they're even, right now, Jenna, they're the Super Bowl favorite in the NFC. Let's see if Monday they're even the favorite to come out of the NFC South. Because I would say they won't be because they're going to lose.
All right, let's talk some Ravens now. Lamar turned the ball over 4 times last week. Baltimore still almost beat the Steelers in that one. They'll try to get back on track against the Colts. But, Brandon, the team that most needs a win in Week 9 is blank.
Ooh, the Titans, they need one bad, Jenna. Lost 2 in a row, heartbreaker to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they lose to Cincinnati. Oh, man. So I got to go with them. They can get back on track on Sunday versus Nick Wright, Chicago's Bears. He picked this team to be a strong team this year, and they're imploding right now.
It's true. Which is why the team that most needs a win is the Chicago Bears. Because Green Bay's playing great, NFC's tough. Chicago's offense has been, what's the word for it? Junior varsity-esque the last couple weeks. But if I know anything about Nick Foles, right when he's on the brink of losing his job, that's when he pulls you back in. When you're almost out, you're brought back in. So I think the Bears against, as Kevin Wilds has pointed out, he was early on this, a really bad Titans defense. You'd think they're a good defense because Mike Vrabel's their coach, but they're not. I think the Bears offense gets back on track. My confidence in this game is growing as I talk about it. Bears defense holds Derrick Henry in check. They need a win. I think they can get the win this weekend, Wilds. What?
Probably the Patriots.
What? Why is he not talking? The Patriots.
The Patriots.
The Jets. He's so worried about the Jets. Wilds is so scared about the Jets.
So great, Wilds. Maybe he's got reason. Let's head south to Tampa now, where Drew Brees and Tom Brady, we talked about it all morning, they're facing off. Antonio Brown is making his season debut for the Bucs, but Brandon, the player with the most to prove in Week 9, is blank.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Look, when I look at everything surrounding this player, he hasn't played well the last couple of weeks. His general manager hasn't been good, hasn't surrounded him with any talent that can help him. Listen, you need everybody in that locker room to help in the National Football League. This isn't the NBA. His head coach hasn't done a great job of putting the team in position. You've never seen this team perform this way in all 3 phases. So look, the player, he's playing for his career right now because of the situation, and not just him, and that's Cam Newton.
Cam. Oh, wow. You're really poor. Our old buddy Kevin Wilds. This has not been a fun segment for him. I'm going to go in a direction that will probably anger Brandon Marshall, but I stand by every bit of it. And this is not disrespectful to this player. This is actually respectful to this player because I'm holding him to a high standard.
I know exactly what you're about to say.
My answer is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson. Lamar's worst game this year was against Pittsburgh. They're undefeated. His second worst game this year was against Kansas City. They're 6-1. If he has another bad game against the 5-2 Colts, and all of a sudden the Ravens have 3 losses, and those 3 losses come to the 3 division leaders in the AFC, you start to have real concerns about how much of a contender they are this season after a 14-2 year. So against Darius Leonard, who's back, that great Colts defense, I feel like sneakily Lamar's got a lot to prove given that Steelers game that he, to his credit, put on himself for those 4 turnovers. So, Wilds, I say Lamar.
Okay,
Ravens by
I'm going
10.
to stay with this game. I'm going to say former Wisconsin Badger great Jonathan Taylor. He only played 33% of the snaps last week. He's coming back from an ankle. There's sort of this ongoing decades-long narrative, starting with Ron Dane. It's like, yeah, you were great at Wisconsin, but they got that big offensive line. Can you be in the league? And I'm there on draft night, like, draft Jonathan Taylor. Why are you taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Got to have a big game here. If you could have a breakout game against the Ravens defense, me and former Badger alumni, actually current Badger alumni, Sam Pepper, our producer, would be very happy.
All right. The NBA made a big announcement yesterday, one that will greatly affect this guy, LeBron James and the Lakers. We will share, we will discuss, we will break it down. We are First Things First. Stick around. We're back after this.
From WWE Thunderdome with an unhinged Jey Uso now by his side, Roman Reigns looks to continue his dominance. It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox.
That is tonight. We are back here, First Things First, talking about the NBA. Why are we talking about the NBA this morning? Because the NBA, which just ended, is actually almost back. Yesterday, the Players Association approved a plan for a 72-game season. So here's what the schedule looks like right now. NBA draft on the 18th. Training camps open shortly after on December 1st. And then it's go time for the season already on the 22nd. And that's just 46 days away. And the finals expected to finish before the Olympics begin on July 23rd. All right, Nick, let's break this down. How does this affect LeBron and the Lakers' chances of a repeat?
Oh, this is, I think the conventional wisdom is this bad for the Lakers because LeBron is old and it's going to be year 18 and all these miles. But what that doesn't factor in is that LeBron's a cyborg and he doesn't tire and he doesn't get hurt. So in reality, this is great for the Lakers because they were far and away the best team in the league the year that just finished. And because of the shortened offseason now, condensed free agency, no summer league, minimal training camp, the 2021 season is going to be more similar to the 2020 season than any two back-to-back years we've ever seen. So what do the Lakers not want? Massive changes to the roster. Now it's harder to change the roster. What do the Lakers not need? Big contributions from a rookie. Well, now it got harder for the teams that do need major contributions from a rookie with no summer league and no real offseason. And what is less likely to have happen? A lot of player movement. If for no other reason then, if you're a guy, say Rajon Rondo, Wilds, and I know the Clippers might want him, but let's take any team other than the Clippers that recruits him. Now what? You've got to pick up your family, your life, move cities, and then be playing games that count all in a 15-day window. I think it leads to more static, meaning lack of movement, and it lets Anthony Davis, who was just playing the best basketball of his career, continue that momentum. So I say this is outstanding news for the defending world champion Los Angeles Lakers, Wild.
Okay, so I buy most of that, and I'm going to float a theory to you that I want your reaction on. LeBron he shoulders the responsibility of the success of the league, right? And he's going to have to play December 22nd. That's a Turner game, and that's an ESPN game on the 25th. Those are two big games that he's going to go 100%. Usually those games were obviously 3 months apart. Now they're back-to-back, so he's got to come right out of the gate strong. Nick, we know that the only thing that really matters in LeBron's legacy is chasing ring number 6. And if he's got 72 games in a condensed schedule, and I know you're going to claim he's a cyborg, but it's not irresponsible to say, like, hey, let's manage our workload here. Rob Mahoney reported there's going to be 3 times as many back-to-backs this year as there was last year. I am totally okay. Wow. I'm going to go a step further. I think he should pull what he did in 2014 when he took that 2-week break in Miami, if he wants to, or if he needs to, and he should do it criticism-free, because it's going to be the toughest schedule, and he's had the least rest of anybody. So if you have been against load management for all the other players, I think LeBron should put this in his arsenal to break out if needed and not receive any criticism for it.
Let me respond to it quickly, and then I'll toss it to Brandon. First of all, the characterization of pull what he did in 2014, LeBron was getting a kneel issue dealt with. He had to deal with it in Miami. I don't know what pull what he did. He needed 2 weeks to deal with an injury, so I don't know what you're talking about, pull what he did in 2014. That historical record does not back that up. LeBron, aside from his last year in Cleveland, typically misses 4 to 8 games a year. I would imagine that will happen again. I have never criticized that. I've never argued for any player you're obligated to play all 82 or this year all 72. It's the I'm going to skip a quarter of the games when healthy that I think's over the top. Now, I understand the art. LeBron's played the 3rd most minutes of any player in the history of basketball. If anyone deserves time off, it's him. I don't think that's how he's wired. If it's going to be a 72-game season, LeBron's going to play in a minimum of 60 of them, and I would guess, Brandon, closer to 65.
That's too many.
Yeah, so for me, when I look at this, LeBron and the Lakers benefit the most from this NBA season starting on the 22nd. Why? Because they have the best player and they have the best leader in LeBron James. I look at this in the NFL, on the NFL side of things, my preseason predictions, people are like, well, why did you pick the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers to make it to the Super Bowl? Why are you high on Tampa Bay and Tom Brady? Well, because you got to think about this. Right now, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Racial tension is soaring. So what do we need most? We need people who can actually produce, and we need people who can actually lead. So when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, Coach Tomlin is one of the most phenomenal leaders when it comes down to moving men. And then the Seattle Seahawks, the entire culture from Russell Wilson to Pete Carroll to Bobby Wagner, the entire locker room just lights out. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady alone has not revolutionized, excuse me, too strong, but Tom Brady has taken that culture and put it into a healthy space so fast. So when you look at the NBA, go back to the bubble. The Lakers won it because of LeBron James, because LeBron James was able to change the mindset of everybody in that locker room. You had Dwight Howard that didn't want to come back. You had other teams and other players around it that opted out. LeBron James was able to keep everybody together. So if LeBron James' mindset switches to where, all right, let's kick it into gear, let me go get 5, then they will have the best chance of repeating because of him. Best player and best leader in the NBA.
All right, all three of you are high on LeBron and the Lakers coming into this season. According to our friends at Fox Bet, they still have the Lakers as the favorites to take home the 2021 title. So it's Lakers, followed by Clippers, Warriors, Bucks, and then you see the Nets there. Nick, who is impacted the most from the updated schedule?
Well, listen, I think that teams that finish the year feeling great about themselves are helped by it. So we all talked about the Lakers, but I also think a team like Dallas and Denver are also helped by it. But I'm going to focus more on impact in a negative way. I think 2 of those teams on the list are really, really negatively impacted by this. And people will think I'm picking on them, but I was right last year and I'm going to be right here. This is awful for the Clippers. The Clippers need a long, cleansing bath from last season. They also, Kawhi Leonard has told them, they need to remake their roster a bit. Now have less time to do it. It's now harder to do it. They got a new head coach. They're going to have to figure that out in a more abbreviated period of time. And if anybody needs extra time to rest, it's Kawhi. And now he's not going to get it. Yep. And the back-to-backs, Kawhi, when's the last time Kawhi played a back-to-back? When he was at San Diego State in the Pac-12 tournament, they're not even in the Pac-12, in the NCAA tournament, it hadn't happened. And so for the Clippers, it's bad. Another team on that list, Wilds, it's bad for is Golden State, because Golden State was going to be big game hunting this summer, which is now harder in a far more condensed free agency, or they were going to keep that number 2 pick and hope that after Summer League and offseason in that culture, he can be a real contributor. Now there's no Summer League. James Wiseman hadn't played, who allegedly they're targeting, James Wiseman played 3 college basketball games. And now he's got no Summer League. And now that you draft him, you expect him to walk into an NBA game and be a part of a championship contender. So if I'm the Warriors or the Clippers, I am incredibly, concerned that this is going to be the schedule, Wilds.
You know who else I'm worried about? The Rockets. Same thing, a lot of instability in the front office and coaching. But we've also heard that the Rockets' Achilles heel is that they can beat you once, but if you play them a few times, you kind of figure them out. And now with this condensed schedule, it's going to look a lot more like baseball. You're going to play a team twice in a row, 3 times in a row, maybe 4 times in a row. So they're almost like these little mini playoff series where the Rockets have struggled versus flying into the Trailblazers, beating them and going home, Brandon.
Well, I disagree with you. The Rockets have no chance, period. That small ball has proven not to be effective in the NBA. But, Nick, I totally disagree with you with the Clippers. The Clippers, it goes back to the same thing I talked about in the first question, and it comes back to mindset. Only thing that Clippers need is the guys in the locker room that buy into whatever they're selling. If they're going to show major love to their superstars and give them days off and load management, then everybody need to understand that those 2 are the superstar, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That's what broke down this team. Kawhi Leonard, let's not forget, this is Mr. Consistent. He's still one of the best top 3 NBA players today. So let's not forget that. Everybody was high on the Clippers. If they have a mindset shift, they will be fine. The Warriors and the Nets are fresher than anybody in the NBA right now. You don't think Curry is chomping at the bits right now to get back out there? The Warriors is a scary team. They're finally healthy. They're well rested, and you got to look out for them. And the Nets, I'm sorry, but Kyrie Irving and KD, this is going to be special. And in Brooklyn, I'm going to be right there sitting courtside watching them boys take on the East.
Just real quick, Jenna, the thing on the Nets with Kyrie's injury history and with KD coming off the Achilles, I don't love the back-to-backs. I think the extra back-to-backs, I do think the Nets are super dangerous, Brandon. I think that what they did with Steve Nash as the head coach is a hell of a gamble, but he's got Mike D'Antoni next to him. No, I understand that. I totally get that, and I assume if you're Kevin Durant, you're actually happy the season's starting earlier because Durant was going to be going on maybe almost 2 years without playing. So but the extra back-to-backs, if I'm the Nets, I got to be cautious with KD, and Kyrie has proven to be somewhat frail. So that would be my concern, but I agree with you on the Nets. The Nets are probably happy the season is starting as early as possible, Jenna.
That's right.
All right, let's take a turn and get back to the NFL now. Bucs getting ready for a rematch with the Saints. They lost the season opener, but are favored this time around. Will the game be as good as the billing? We'll tell you why it absolutely will next. First things first. Welcome back. We're talking about that big battle in Buffalo on Sunday. Russell Wilson taking his cooking show on the road to the home of the chicken wing. That would be Buffalo, and that's where my culinary references end. Bucs already with a league-leading 26 touchdowns. Wind not going to be a factor like the wind was last weekend in Buffalo. It'll be 63 and sunny for this one. Michael Vick is back with us now. All right, Mike, who needs the win more on Sunday, Seahawks or Bills?
I think the Seahawks need to win more. It's very important that they keep that momentum going. The momentum that they created up into this point being 6-1. Obviously, a win against a team like the Buffalo Bills give you that confidence moving forward because the Buffalo Bills are a good football team and it's not going to be an easy task. But in order for Russ to continue to cook like you just said, to keep cooking and stay in that MVP race, this is a game that he has to win. And then looking forward, over the next couple of weeks, I think they play the Rams and the Cardinals. So to get 3 wins, on the record right now and be 9-1 potentially, I think sets them up, for the postseason. So it's very important for Russell. It's very important for the defense to play with confidence and play better as they get Jamal Adams back and some new faces in the lineup, just for the confidence moving forward of the overall team. So I think the Seahawks need this more than the Buffalo Bills, hands down.
So here's why I'm so excited for this game, and I think you can argue it's the best game of the early Sunday slate. And I promise that this isn't a cop-out. I think they both wildly need this game. I think it's critically important to both teams' goals this year because these teams' goals are different. Seattle's goal is to make Brandon Marshall correct and win the Super Bowl. And the best path there is a first-round bye, which only one team is getting this year in each conference. So it is critical because of the schedule that Mike Vick just laid out coming up, which isn't easy, that they not drop another game, which would then, by the way, potentially put them behind because of the tiebreaker Arizona. Green Bay's rolling. Like the winner of Tampa and New Orleans only going to have 2 losses. And then all of a sudden, you're in a fight for your life for the division, let alone the 1 seed. The Bills are competing for something else this year, which is why this game is so critical. To win the AFC East for the first time since the Clinton administration. And in order to do that, winning this game will go a massive way towards it because Buffalo still has on the schedule Pittsburgh. They have to go to Arizona. They have a matchup in New England when we assume New England will want revenge and will be playing better. So if the Bills win this game, Brandon, it's hard to create a path to them not getting the 10 wins they're going to need to win the division. But if they lose it, and you look at the schedule later in the year, I would be concerned for them. So I think it's wildly important for both teams to achieve what their actual goals this season are.
Yeah, but Nick, I have to go with Seattle because the possibilities are bigger for them. Like you said, they're playing for a Super Bowl. This is a real possibility for them. When you look at Seattle and how they're made up, man, this is the year to get it done. Russell Wilson's been lights out. And like I said all week, it's not a fad, it's not a trend. This guy's just progressing and trending in the right direction. He is really good at playing football. But then when you go to the other side, the Buffalo Bills, what's interesting is that they're 6-2. Their record is phenomenal. but it doesn't just, there's something's off. It doesn't feel right in Buffalo because the defensive side, the defensive line, they don't have what they need to get it done. And then the cornerbacks, they're in and out, banged up, and they don't have enough there. And the reason why that's scary is because they don't have a Russell Wilson on the other side to combat that. They got Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, as you guys know, I was super high on. This is a guy that at the beginning of the year was putting up MVP numbers. I compared his numbers to the 2018 Patrick Mahomes numbers. And then all of a sudden, he just started fading and trending in the wrong direction. Mike, I don't know what's going on with Josh Allen. This is a guy, for me, that has huge upside. He must be dealing with some type of injury because when you look at what he has there on the offensive side from Brian Daboll, an excellent offensive coordinator, come from your team, Wilds, the New England Patriots. He was also my offensive coordinator, so I know how he dials it up. I know how he relates to the player. And then you have 3 or 4 pass catchers that can get it done. So something's going on with Josh Allen. If he can get back on track, then we can then consider him back as a contender and put him in Nick's tiers as far as one of the better teams in the NFL.
Ooh. Look, I think Nick is right. I think even though the Bills beat the Patriots still have a heartbeat. But this would be the stake in the Patriots' heart. Yeah. If they beat Seattle, because I think we're going to beat the Jets. I'm nervous about it, but I think we're going to beat the Jets. But if this is not, everyone in Patriot Nation's got this penciled down as a loss. If Buffalo comes out of here with a win, and we're looking up like, oh gosh, you guys got 7 wins.
Exactly right.
And we're not really worried about the Dolphins and his 90 yards with Tua's. Now these dumb reports. Now they even shaking Tua's confidence even more. Not worried about the Dolphins. Obviously not worried about the Jets. Besides this week, I'm actually worried. So I think this is the actual one that could kill the dynasty, Nick.
So this is exactly right, and I just want to kind of play this out a bit. The Patriots are obviously sitting at 2-5. I think their best case scenario, and you can say this is unrealistic, but the best case scenario for them is they get to 10-6. They'd have to obviously go 8-1 the rest of the way. Probably isn't going to happen, but it's their best case scenario. If the Bills win this week and they're sitting at 7 wins, their worst case scenario is 10-6. And so if your best case is the equivalent of your opponent's worst case, and by the way, we're leaving out Miami, who I also think potentially maybe could get to 10 wins, I think more likely 9. I think Buffalo can, right, in the hearts of the country, clinch the division this week. On the flip side, if they lose and Josh Allen plays poorly against, historically speaking, a pass defense that is projected to be or pacing to be the worst in NFL history, then I think the Bills' confidence is shaken, the Patriots and Dolphins are a little buoyed, and we might have a race to the finish in the AFC East. So for Super Bowl potential, Seahawks, this game's way more important. For the winner of the, a divisional winner, I think this game could tell us a ton about the AFC East, Jenna.
Speaking of Tua, and speaking of the Dolphins, rather, it is Tua time in Miami. But are those final 10 games an audition for the rookie quarterback? We will get to the bottom of this odd rumor from Miami next. First things first. I got a question for you guys. When is Tua time only temporary? When you listen to rumors about the Miami Dolphins, apparently. Head coach Brian Flores is still making a case for his quarterback change. This after Tua has played 4 quarters and wasn't asked to do a whole lot in that game with the defense dominating. Here's Brian Flores on Tua's situation.
There's a couple of things out there. Let's call it a source close to Dolphins thinking, saying that we're auditioning Tua, and I'm just going to tell you about my thinking. We brought Tua here because we believe in him, same as all the other draft picks. We believe in developing players, and I think you guys have heard me talk about the improvement of players on a daily basis. That would be the opposite of giving somebody a 10-game audition.
Mike Vick back with us. Mike, what do you make of this rumor that the Dolphins are basically giving Tua a 10-game audition here?
I believe Brian Flores and what he's saying right now. He's a serious dude. I can tell you that. And you know, I believe in what he's saying. This is not a 10-game audition for Tua. I mean, the last thing the Miami Dolphins need to be doing is trying to find another quarterback. You know, it's been 20 years since they found one, and I'll be pulling my hair out if we got to go through the Miami Dolphins and their bad quarterback play another 20 years. So, look, they got the guy. You know, I believe in Brian Flores and his philosophy. You know, I think they're trying to develop Tua for the future.
All right, let me try to explain.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Brandon. I apologize. Go, Brandon.
No, go ahead. No, ahead, because this is your guy. You love Brian Flores. Jump in there.
Well, no. So I love Flores, and I'm very high on Tua, and so I obviously wouldn't do this. But what I wanted to do there was just kind of explain to the audience, because I think a lot of people are confused by this. Like, wait, what? How is this even a story? The reason this is something of a story is because the Dolphins could end up this year with the second pick of the draft. In the ongoing detritus left over from the Bill O'Brien reign of terror in Houston, the Texans' first-round and second-round picks are in Miami this year, and the Texans have the second worst record in the NFL. They couldn't get the number one pick because the Jets aren't going to win a game, so they're going to get that one. But you could have the number 2 pick and potentially draft Justin Fields or any quarterback other than Trevor Lawrence. That's why this story is out there. But, Brandon, the reason this story is totally illogical is because we have no evidence whatsoever they don't like Tua. They took your guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick, out of the lineup, and it wasn't because of those horrific shorts he was wearing. He wore those afterwards because they like Tua so much. They can win the division, and they went to Tua because of what he's shown them, I would imagine. And so I know we have short leashes in the NFL these days. He has played 6 quarters in the NFL. The leash can't possibly be that short. So I think it's insanity, Brandon.
Well, is it insanity? I don't know, but I'll get to that. But first, let's start with Coach's comments. Coach's comments. Mike, he's sending a message to his players saying, don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to that outside chatter. I am your coach. This is my team. He's also sending a message to ownership and management saying, this is my team. I'm developing my quarterback. We sat down. We put together a plan, and you need to let me execute against my plan. But if we want to have a real conversation in your ownership, right, you got to look at it. You have the Houston pick that could be number 2, number 3, number 4 pick in the draft. You can go get a quarterback. You look at Burrow balling, you look at Herbert balling, and you got this guy on the bench. No, they're probably thinking, let me see who this guy is. Because ownership, they're thinking long term. They got to prepare for the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So you have to see what you have. But on the other side, every guy in that locker room, every guy on that field, players and coaches included, we live day to day. That's what Brian Flores is saying. It's like, I can give a damn about 5 years from now. We live day to day. We need to win now. So I can understand both sides' wilds.
Okay. Nick, play it out. What if the Jets win a few games? What if the Dolphins have a chance at Trevor Lawrence? What if they don't win a few games and say, Sam Darnold's our guy, we're going to go another direction? What if Trevor Lawrence is there? Is there a chance that Tua could get Josh Rosen, especially if he gets outplayed by Burrow, who he plays in Week 13, and then Herbert in Week 10? Did they see enough? They're like, Trevor Lawrence, our guy. We've seen Josh Rosen. Let's try to package Tua. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but it could happen.
I'll answer and I'll kick it to Mike. I would argue if that happens, Trevor Lawrence is such a great prospect. I understand, pardon me, why everyone has to have the conversation. But if I'm Miami, Mike, and people thought I was intentionally tanking last year and I won 5 games, and this year I'm going to win 7, 8, 9 games, maybe even make the playoffs. I have an excellent head coach. I'm building the roster. Assuming Tua is not just an unmitigated disaster, and he won't be. If I end up with the number 1 pick because the Texans are an unmitigated disaster, the conversation I'm having in the building, Mike, is can we get the greatest draft bounty since the RG3 trade to supercharge this rebuild? So we have 3 first-round picks over the next few years, additional second-round picks. You already got a bounty from Laramie Tunsil. You got a first-round pick from Minka, which has helped you put you in this position. And whether, by the way, that's what I would be doing if I'm Miami, whether it's the #1 pick or the #4 pick. I would be trying to trade it for a later first-rounder and an additional first-rounder. Mike, they could be in a position where they almost have an extra first-round pick 4 or 5 drafts in a row if they play this right. And that's how you build the team that should take over for New England in the AFC East, Mike.
Yeah, so now that I hear about this more and I'm digesting it, then these 10 games for Tua, the next 10 games do become crucial and critical. But, you know, when you look at how many picks they have and what they can do in the draft moving forward, I think it's extremely important to just build around what you have. And, yes, you have the luxury of going out and picking another guy or trading a Tua if it comes down to it, if you don't like what you see. But I think you have to go with what you've seen and what you've been able to put together throughout the draft process. You evaluated Tua, you liked him, you drafted him for a reason, and you build around him from there. You can't be straddling on the fence, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got to go in and you got to go all out, and you got to support your guy. I think the quarterback musical chairs just won't be valid right now for this team.
The case for the opposite would be what happened in Arizona last year. They seem real happy with the choice they made moving on from Josh Rosen, but we'll see. On to Sunday's AFC showdown in Indy. Lamar and the Ravens coming off that emotional loss to the Steelers. Lamar turned it over 4 times. They still almost won, if you recall. Colts DN Justin Houston talked about the mindset headed into a matchup with Lamar, saying, respect him, but don't fear him. Mike, back to you. What do you need to see from Lamar Jackson Sunday against the Colts to prove that he's still an MVP caliber quarterback? Because his draft has gone down just a bit over the course of this season as teams are figuring out what he's doing in the passing game.
Jenna, for one, I think is very disrespectful. And even though I got a lot of respect for Justin Houston, for him to be saying that they don't fear Lamar, they respect him. It's too early in Lamar's career for them to be saying that. He's done too much damage in the ground game for guys to be saying that they don't fear him. They should be fearing him, and the reason they aren't right now is because of the mistakes that, you know, Lamar has made. You know, Lamar has put the ball on the ground a lot. He's put the ball in harm's way a lot. And for Lamar, it's about not losing the game now. You don't want to be the guy on Monday morning waking up having to answer a lot of questions and going through all these scenarios in your head, why you made a throw, why you didn't get rid of the football. You know, it becomes bearing on you, a tough bearing on you. And, you know, you just want to do everything possible to put your team in the best position to win the football game. And it's not going to be easy this week versus the Indianapolis Colts. They have a very skilled and veteran defense and some good players over there. So he's going to have to protect the football. You know, as much as we say it's cliche, this is the real deal now in Baltimore. He has to take care of that and then be able to spread the football around and get Hollywood Brown involved.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. This whole fear thing, you better fear him. One of the things I did as a player when I used to prep for, you know, my opponent that week or my matchups, I would actually read all of the press clippings. I would listen to all the press conferences from the coaches, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, head coach, and then all of the top players. Why? Because they'll tell you what they feel. They'll tell you, excuse me, what they're thinking. And right now, Houston is telling you that he fears them. Like, they're telling you from our film review, we are scared. So for him to come out and say this is actually pulling back the curtain on what they think. Lamar Jackson doesn't have to do anything, Nick. Lamar Jackson was the MVP last year. Lamar Jackson led the league in touchdowns. Now, Lamar Jackson could play better. Their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, could do a better job. But at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson is fine. He led his team to a 14-2 record last year. And look at them right now. They're still on track. They just need to clean up some things.
Yep. So, listen, I think Baltimore's going to win, and I think Lamar's going to play well. But Wilds, There's a segment that I want us to start doing at some point, and you're kind of the guy I bounce things off of. It's called
Here we go.
Tomorrow's Takes Today. Tomorrow's Takes Today. In this case, it would kind of be Monday's Takes Today. And here's what that segment would be. If Lamar struggles, I don't think he will, but if Lamar struggles and Baltimore loses, the takes on Monday that the league has figured out Lamar, that last year was a flash in the pan, that this style is not going to be sustainable, are going to come faster than any takes we've seen this NFL season. It's going to be from every network, every show, that topic will be discussed. I'm not saying everyone will argue it, but there will be that bottom line. Has the league, if Lamar is bad this weekend and they lose, has the league figured out Lamar Jackson? Is one of the lead stories Monday. I don't think he will lose this weekend, but if he does, Wilds, that's what's coming.
Yeah, Mike, real quick, I know we got to go to break. Lamar's got 191 yards a game. Cam Newton's at 190. People are like, is Cam Newton the guy? Baker's got 189. Is Baker the guy? Drew Lock is out there. He's got 185, and he's like doing dances, and that's the only headlines he's making. If he doesn't, when you were a quarterback and you saw everybody else throwing the ball, if you were Lamar, you're like, hey, turn me loose. Let me sling this thing around. The scheme that we've got, it's not, I'm not going to complain like Hollywood Brown because I'm the quarterback, but come on, let me throw the ball.
Interesting.
Well, the one thing that's not easy to do is just to change your entire scheme in 1 week. What they've been working on and what they have in place is pretty much what they have to go with. They can expand a little bit, but for everybody to be on the same page and for it to click and run smoothly, they can't make those type of adjustments mid-season.
Gotcha.
Now, what they can do is open it up a little more, get into more 4- and 5-wide sets, and alleviate more of the running game, start passing the ball a little more. I think they can do a lot more in the passing game. They just got to be creative and innovative in their approach to attacking the defense.
Lamar, still young. You know who's not young? That guy. Which 40-something quarterback has the edge in Sunday's shootout in Tampa? Breeze or Brady? We'll break it down next. Michael Vick, thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
From WWE Thunderdome with an unhinged Jey Uso now by his side, Roman Reigns looks to continue his dominance. It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox.
All right, time now for stories to start your Friday morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. And let's talk about Sunday's showdown in the NFC South, the rematch of that Week 1 opener, 6-2 Bucs, 5-2 Saints. Drew Brees, member, took care of business in the season opener. Brady's Bucs, though, they've got them in a groove as of late. Brees does have a 4-2 record lifetime versus Brady, but he's 0-1 this season. So with that, it is time for Brandon's keys to the game. Brandon, what are your keys to the Saints upsetting the Buccaneers?
Before we jump in there, can we switch my jersey out to the Miami Dolphins? I want to show the Miami Dolphins a little love next week. They're on a 3-game win streak. So let's switch it out. I know I've been asking a lot, been a little bit of diva on the show.
I'm in charge of that.
But here we go.
I'll take care of that for you, buddy.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you so much. Here we go. All right, the keys to the Saints' success will be this. Number 1, you got to protect old man noodle arm Drew Brees. A lot of people say he's noodle arm. It may be true now. He didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice, well, he was limited in practice. Let me correct that. So he didn't practice Wednesday, limited yesterday, which is a big deal. When I was there in New Orleans, he never threw a ball on Wednesday. The last couple years, he hasn't thrown on Wednesday. Thursday is a big deal, so we need to see what's going on with his arm. Hopefully it's not noodle arm coming back again. Number 2, Michael Thomas haven't played since week 1. This guy is ready to go. He should be healthy. He should be energized. He should also be ticked off because of everything surrounding him the last couple weeks. Target this guy 15 times. He can be your bell cow. And the last thing, Lattimore and Mike Evans. There's something going on here, Nick. This is a heavyweight battle. He held this dude to 1 catch, 2 yards last. In week 1, you got to hold him to 50 yards, underneath 50 yards. If you do that, you have a chance to win.
Okay, so Brandon, here's the problem. And this is going to seem like a personal attack, and it should. You did the keys to the game all wrong. Because the whole idea behind the keys to the game is you explain how the underdog, the inferior team, the steps they have to take to beat the better team. But despite what Vegas says, the better team here is the Saints. The inferior team here is the Bucs. So what we should have gotten was the steps the Bucs have to take to beat the Saints. But that's not what we got. So listen, you and Sam Pepper, your ace producer, next week try to clean that up a little bit. Oh, I'll tell you why I think that.
Why are the Saints better?
Because I think, well, a number of reasons. One is I trust their coach more. Another is I trust their quarterback more. Another is they did beat them the first time they played. And this is where I was leading to, you talked about keeping Drew Brees upright. America's favorite rapscallion, Kevin Wildes, has pointed out something no one was talking about this week, which is the 98% of snaps that Bucs offensive line has played together, pacing to be one of the highest in modern NFL history, the highest of any team in the league this year by a mile. Ali Marpet, who, Brandon, you've talked about as one of the best guards in football, is dealing with a concussion. He has not practiced this week. If he is out, typically a guard being out for a game, you say, okay, the team will be able to deal with it. But, Brandon, the Bucs haven't had to deal with that at all year. Wildes pointed out, their offensive line has played every single snap of the season together except for 5 total snaps. What do we know about Brady? He's been brilliant when he's not been pressured. But when he has been pressured, he looks like old man River. Phillip Rivers, that is. I didn't really mean to do that, but it works. So how concerned are you if Ali Marpet doesn't play, dealing with the concussion, that Brady is going to be pressured up the middle where he hates it more than anything, and that's going to throw off this quest for your beloved Tampa Bay Bucs, Brandon?
Well, Nick, you almost got me here. I had to really quick do a Google search of who is on the bench in the backup guard.
It ain't good.
So
right.
Look,
yeah.
Here's the deal. If you told me the right tackle or the left tackle went down, then I would say we have an issue, because you have Cam Jordan on the other side who's having a weird type of year. He's not really getting the sacks, but he is getting some pressure there. Some people think he's hurt. I just personally think he hasn't had that one game. So if it was a right tackle, the young rookie right tackle Worth playing lights out, if he went down, I would be concerned. But as far as in the interior, you have Jensen, who I said is the best center in football right now. He can easily make up for Marpet not being there.
That's
fair.
I
think they'll be fine. Well, I know they'll be fine. But you almost had me, buddy.
That's fair.
Okay, now I'll give you another one, Brandon. I'll give you the pile on. Suppose, right, if Tom Brady gets sacked 3 times, they lose games. That's it. That's all you need to know. If Tom Brady gets sacked 3 times, the Bucs will lose. Now, what if it's not that dire? What if the offensive line is just a slight downgrade? Maybe they don't lose the game, but does the offensive plan look different if Brady's getting rushed a little bit? Because when we talk about air yards down the field, Brady is killing it and Drew Brees is not. But not all of that is old, like who's got the battle of the 43-year-old noodle arm. I think it's who's being protected more. And since Brady has gotten so much protection, I think that opens up the field so that you can get AB involved. So maybe AB won't be involved so much, Nick, because this offensive line is a little bit banged up, and Brady will have a little more pressure, and we'll start to see a different Bucs offense.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid concern and point, and I will just to respond to Brandon's point about left tackle versus left guard. I would note where Brady hates getting pressured the most historically is up the middle, but if Jensen can take care of it, he can take care of it. But I want to push this conversation forward a bit, because the whole world is picking the Bucs to win except for me. Yeah. If the Saints win, I do want everyone to understand what it means for the Bucs. If the Saints win, the Bucs' path to winning the division dwindles immensely. it would be the third loss for Tampa. They have a game against the Chiefs coming up. So that's a fourth loss. If you lose to the Saints twice, you lose all tiebreakers. So if the Bucs lose this weekend, in order for them to win the division, the Saints would have to go 11-5. Does anyone really think the Saints are only winning 11 games if they win this weekend? If the Saints win this weekend and sweep the Bucs, do you really think the rest of the way they're only going to get to 11 total wins? I don't. So I would argue, Brandon, for the Bucs to win the division, this weekend is a must-win game. And if you don't win the division, you have no home playoff games the whole way. So would you agree there that to win the division, the Bucs have to win on Sunday?
Yeah, 100%. Every game is important. What did you say? You wanted to introduce a new segment called Tomorrow's News Today?
Tomorrow's
Is that what you
takes
said?
Today. Tomorrow's takes today.
Yes.
Tomorrow's takes today.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about, because if we're living in the moment and we're being mindful, then we know that Tampa Bay is the better team. I don't care about you beating me week 1. What I do care about is me and my team, our guys getting better. Defensively, they're better. Offensively, they're better. They can do everything. If they wanted to run it 30, 35 times and win the game that way, they can. They got 2 running backs. They got Antonio Brown. They got a healthier Mike Evans now. Tampa Tom is playing lights out, going back to his 2010 MVP campaign. So when you look at today, Nick, and not tomorrow, Tampa is the better team. You can have all the stats you want. You can talk as bad as you want about Tampa Tom, but they are the better team right now.
Tomorrow's takes today tells Tampa Tom's terrible on Sunday. How about that? Not going to play well. He's not going to play well. The Bucs are going to lose. That's going to be the topic.
Hey,
Tomorrow's take today says
that
the Bucs win by 10.
Yesterday's take next Thursday. That's my new segment. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a good
Undisputed
weekend,
starts right
America.
now.